And Jaqui Lane joins us from Sydney from our leader from Australia. Jack, good to see you. You're there?
Good to
Yes?
see you.
Oh, there you are. See, I can't see you, but you can see me, which
No, I
on
can't see.
Valentine's Day, darling, I'm not sure that's necessarily a good thing.
Happy Valentine's to you too.
Well, there you are, darling. Now, can I just ask you, did anybody bring you flowers, chocolates, or anything remotely resembling?
No, my cat bought me up a piece of dead palm frond this morning, which he usually does, so that'll have to do.
Dead palm frond.
Yes.
What happened to cats going after birds, mice, rabbits, rats?
Look, Eddie's the name of my cat. He does occasionally bring me up a dead mouse, but typically that's after I've been away for 2 or 3 days, and I think it's kind of like a peace offering saying, "You've been away, please don't go away again. Here's a dead mouse." But most of the time, he usually comes up with a twig or a leaf or, palm frond.
Listen, this has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about, but just on the cat issue, because as you know, I'm not a cat person, but I have been adopted by a feral over the last few years. This whole thing, does the cat sleep in between your legs, or is it just my cat?
It's just your cat. My cat sleeps at the end of the bed, and then after about half an hour after the light's gone out, he goes underneath my bed. So not
Oh,
on me or anywhere near me.
no, my cat has made a beeline for the V, so I'll open my legs, which I always know is a mistake, because as soon as I do, I've got black pussy all over me. And I'm just going, that's not right. And then I'll wake up all sweaty. It's just, I just wondered if it was just me. So, okay. I'm asking this question of all cat lovers, can I say, because all right, now, moving on. Listen, I'm fascinated by what seems to be the cause celeb of the week in Sydney, which is these two health workers who decided that they were going to make a video or record in some sort of video suggesting that their job was to kill Israelis. What's the background to this?
Yeah, look, I'm just trying to get to the background of it, but so from a public-facing point of view, this video that was on some kind of Snapchatty kind of channel caught these two Bankstown-based nurse aides. I
Oh, they
guess
were nurse
slagging
aides, not nurses.
pass. I don't know, but they were registered nurse somethings. Really just talking about the fact that they wouldn't treat Jewish people or things like that. And it turns out, and I've only read this morning, that in fact it was a bit of a setup or a bit of a thing from an Israeli-based kind of social media guy who randomly connects with people around the world and kind of sets up a conversation or a dialogue. And so these two connected with him and kind of didn't realize that what they were doing was going to go public, and really who he was and what the whole thing was about. Suffice to
No, I mean
say,
it was a bit of an entrapment exercise. There's no question about that. And you're right. It was an Israeli influencer, I think, who did it.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, if you're going to say that sort of thing in any situation and say that you've been killing people when you're
oh,
employed by the Australian Health Services, you're going to be in a bit of trouble.
and they've been sacked, and so they should have been. And you're absolutely right. It's just appalling on many, many levels. So yesterday, the New South Wales, the CEO of New South Wales Health or whatever, where it came out very publicly, and explained that as soon as they found out, they took immediate action, and they've gone back and checked patients and records and stuff like that, and just
Yes. Mm.
and doesn't seem to be what they said is true. But yeah, it's just appalling on so many levels.
The male nurse's name is Ahmed Rashid Nadir. The female nurse is Sarah Abu Lebde. I Listen, I don't know their background or how long they've been there, but She wears the sort of partial burqa, I think.
Yeah,
Habib, is it?
the
Yeah, the
hijab.
head covering. Yeah, so they clearly identify with the Muslim religion. Um, Listen, some people say stupid people things all the time. Is there a genuine concern that these people have done this, or they're just a bunch of stupid buggers?
I think a bit of both, quite frankly. If you're going to go out, like as you said, if you go out publicly, whether it's meant to be a not kind of confined forum or whatever, if you go out anywhere and say stuff like that, it is stupid. And that's on its own is just shows a lack of anything really.
Mm,
But stupid people do stupid things. And then
true.
of course you have to, and of course you have to take it seriously,
Yeah.
because if you just brush it off, it's almost like silence is consent. You're saying it's okay, and it's certainly not okay.
We've talked about this before because this is an issue that simply doesn't arise in New Zealand and seems, well, from our point of view, relatively unique to the Australia at the moment. This anti-Semitism scare, which has been going on now, Jack, for months, hasn't it? Months and
Yeah,
months and
yeah,
months.
yeah,
And obviously doesn't seem to be calming down at all. It's affected newsrooms, for God's sake. There's a court case, for example,
yeah.
I see, to do with the sacking of a radio broadcaster or journalist over there. There are academic registrars and vice chancellors on universities being held to account. There's been the spray painting, the desecration of mosques and stuff like that. Um, I'm I'm trying to get a sense of it, and because we can't, obviously, it's not our country. But is this an issue that is being sensationalised by the Australian media, or is this a genuine attempt to make Jewish people in Australia feel uncomfortable and unwelcome?
Again, I think it's a bit of both. I think it's very real. As I think I mentioned to you, the first spray painting and fire thing was literally down the road from me.
Mm.
So in my community, so I can tell you it's very real. And so it's there. I think the media really have actually not sensationalized it to a large degree. They're reporting on it, but mostly not all, but most of the media have been very careful around how they're reporting this, but they're reporting what's happening. And there's a great deal of concern, I think, across all levels. And there's been multi-faith councils and meetings. There's great concern, I think, through the community, through the political leadership, and through the particular religious leadership on all sides, that this is kind of not what we want. It's not what we see ourselves as about. And I think some leaders are doing a better job and others than in responding to it. So it's a very real issue. And maybe it's always been there, and really the whole Gaza Israeli thing has brought it to the surface in a way that nothing else has. But it's very real.
Okay.
And,
The
and
response of the government you initially criticised on this, you said that Albanese was being
yeah,
weak and indecisive. Has it
yeah,
got stronger and more decisive?
not really. No, and he's rolling up for an election. So the Labor Party has been a bit schizophrenic on this. Um,
Is that
Dutton's
because
come
their
out.
sympathies are with the Palestinian cause?
I don't think they know where their sympathies lie. And I think, like probably a lot of communities, there's a diverse set of views about it. Um, but in times like this, you need clear leadership, and it's been somewhat lacking. The New South Wales Premier has done a way better job. And I'm not going to list who's done a good or bad job, but community leaders and police and various, I think, other groups have have shown some stronger leadership than the current federal government.
Yeah, because I've asked you before in the past, what's the problem with Anthony Albanese? Because he just seems to, well, he seems to lack charisma. He seems to lack a political antenna. Mind you, you might argue the Prime Minister of New Zealand's got both of those two issues as well. You've sort of pointed out, well, that's just the way he is. He's sort of a compromise of the various factions within the Labour Party. That's how he ended up as the leader. Is Peter Dutton, the Liberal National Coalition opposition leader, any more charismatic or any more in tray with public sentiment?
If you look at the opinion polls, you'd say he's improving. He had a lot of improvement to do, but he's certainly resonating more with voters, potential voters, and he's not afraid of coming out and saying what he thinks. And I think I mentioned before, way back when John Howard was around, various people might not have agreed with his policies or what he was doing, but you always knew exactly what he stood for. And I think that's what you're seeing with the community with Peter Dutton now. His leadership skills and his articulating of a point of view is very, very clear. You might not like it and you might like it, but you certainly are not left wondering where he's going and what he's thinking.